A couple of minutes to join us is Illinois Republican Congressman John Shimkus. Congressman, a pleasure as always. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Charles. Let me just kind of correct you. The hearing today is the oversight and investigation of the Energy and Commerce Committee. I don't serve on the O&I. I did have a BP hearing yesterday on the health effects.
Okay.
That was on the health subcommittee, and then 2 days ago we did have an energy and air quality, which we had McKay and the four other oil execs. I'm not sitting on the one today.
Understood. Sometimes it's hard to keep all the committees and subcommittees straight. So from what you heard yesterday then, and from what we've heard briefly from Tony Hayward today, I mean, what's your feeling so far? Is BP giving it their best effort, or are they being hung out to dry by a lot of people, or are they being rightly criticized? What's your feeling?
Well, one, rightly criticized on, I think you're going to find when the investigation is done that there's going to be human error or decisions made by BP and Transocean and Halliburton that didn't use proper procedures. That's where this whole this $75 million cap thing, I don't think it's that relevant, because I believe in a lawsuit they will be clearly fined as a primary responsible party, and then they'll be held accountable. I think that's why that every member of Congress is calling, for BP to pay all the costs. They've agreed to do that. The president, to his credit, yesterday got him to commit to $20 billion. I think the cost right now is they project to be about $1.9 billion. That may have been in cost and ancillary services. We should all be in this together to stop the spill, make sure we kind of do the utmost to remediate the effects. BP's on the hook, and then ensure we have inspectors inspecting the rigs to ensure this doesn't happen again.
One of the things that struck me during the Energy and Commerce hearing this morning, BP, one member said that he disagreed with you. He felt that the $20 billion was, quote, a shakedown by the president of BP, which I found a little amazing.
Yeah, well, BP, and I heard that. I wasn't in the room, but of course that's a scuttle on the floor, because almost to a person, both sides of the aisle, and I just use the comments from my mom. If we're in a porcelain shop, she would warn me, hey, if you break it,
you pay for it.
You own it, and I think everybody knows BP broke it, and BP's paying for it. Now, will pay for it, will that be $10 billion in total cost? Will it be $15 billion? So I think it's in everybody's interest to not fight about the amount, agree that BP's on the hook, and then even if they do this third-party compensation thing, that's a third party. That's not government. That's not BP. That's a third party that will look at the economic damages, dislocation. I mean, as you've covered, and I've heard a lot of your shows over this 56-day crisis, this is long time, decade catastrophe for the Gulf and that region.
Yeah, I've lost track of the days, but I'm informed by Craig Hogarth over here that we're on 59 days. Look, as a national security matter, and I know this is something that's very important to you. We've obviously talked over the years about cutting our dependence on foreign oil and about trying to cut our dependence on petroleum overall slowly as a national security matter. It was obvious, I think, from this drilling that there was no plan, there was no useful plan to stop this if a disaster happened a mile below the surface. So I guess the basic question is, from a national security point of view, does it make more sense to say, okay, we were drilling a mile down, this was an aberration, we're going to continue deep sea exploration? Or do you think it makes good sense to say, well, wait a minute, we need to figure out ways around this, and this may not be the best thing we're doing if we're trying to wean ourselves from foreign oil? What's your read on that?
Well, I've always talked, and I mean, that's a great question, because renewable fuels, and that's a big plethora. It could be solar, it could be wind, it could be ethanol, it could be biodiesel, and those are things that I trumpet. There's still going to be higher cost fuels, and on the solar and the wind, it's going to be intermittent, so it's not. You still have and when you go in that direction, you raise costs because you have limited supply. So I've always talked about North American energy security. So you bring in Canada and you bring in Mexico, but you still have the Outer Continental Shelf. This is a major disaster of epic proportions. You have deep sea operations in Europe. You have it off Newfoundland in Canada. You have it. Norway is very experienced at that. Something went wrong, and that people are going to, for themselves, are going to do cost-benefit analysis. Do we want to be out of the Middle East, or at least make sure our decisions of military intervention is not always based upon what we need to be there because it's our national security interest in oil? Yes. How do you do that? North American energy sources. Does that mean OCS? Yes. But you know what it also means? It means the tar sands of Canada, which is the ConocoPhillips refinery in Wood River.
Mm-hmm.
And that pipeline, Charles, is bringing oil down, and that decreases our reliance on imported crude oil. Does that mean going, as I've tried and pushed for years, is coal to liquid technology? Let's use nuclear power, cleaner if you're a climate person, for electricity generation. Let's use our coal and turn it into liquid fuel like the Germans did in World War II. That's where we need to go, but I'm still, if BP broke it, BP fixes it, but I'm still a OCS person.
Yeah, because of that, then, where do you think this leaves us? I mean, given that we face this, given that offshore drilling is going to have a moratorium on it for a little while, if we are going to continue to do this, and it's evident from this that nobody has any plan for stopping a spill that deep under that kind of pressure, what do we need to do if we're going to continue that exploration to try to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, or indeed, is there anything that can be done?
Well, part of my questioning 2 days ago with the five oil execs was really, obviously they're doing an evaluation, a crisis plan. You highlighted something that was agreed upon in the testimony. We do not have the assets and the ability to handle this big. And I recommended to the execs that they ought to get together and have a rapid reaction force based upon this. And so they have to join their forces. One of the things that we can talk about is a federal law called the Jones Act, which doesn't allow foreign flag vessels in U.S. waters. Bush temporarily suspended the Jones Act during Katrina. This administration will not. And the French have offered to bring some skimmers into the Gulf to help, and they're not being allowed. That could be part of that rapid reaction, and maybe part of the rule saying if you have a crisis like that, suspend the Jones Act until the cleanup is completed. So we have to do a lot of different things. I know you talked about the blowout preventers, too. I did ask the question, what is the cost of having a second blowout protector? Mm-hmm. Because in some areas of the world, they require to. And, and I can't remember which executive, people could refer back to it, said in big cost of things, it's really insignificant. I mean, he really didn't know, but it's like when you're dealing with $1 million operation a day, the second blowout protector, we've been told, is a $15 million piece of equipment. Why don't we have some new standards? I mean, the federal government, through the Mine and Mineral Services, we haven't had a guy from the federal government, from MMS or the inspector, come before our committee yet. We haven't had any of the workers on the rigs who survived come before the committee yet. So, and that's what we're also asking for.
I guess the final question, Congressman, is that as we all look at this, the one thing that keeps going through our mind is the same thing that happened, 30, 40 years ago during the first Arab oil embargo, a couple of years ago when gasoline was approaching $4 a gallon. Oh, my God, we need to, use less petroleum. We need to find more alternatives to the internal combustion engine. A lot of noise is made about that, and then we go back to our old habits. Is there any research you guys have been aware of in your looking at this that holds out the promise for something, whether it's electric, whether it is hydrogen fuel cell, whether it's something else that holds out at least the promise of being an adjunct to, if not eventually replacing, internal combustion engine, not only in our personal vehicles, but in trains, military vehicles, large trucks, that sort of thing? Or is this still something that scientists have yet to get a handle on?
I think it's something that they have to get a handle on. I know that the most promising application would be new battery technology that would allow electric vehicles. Looking at a commute of metropolitan St. Louis, electric vehicles, electric cars that could have a 240-mile range could be easily used in commuting back and forth. But people have to remember that in rural, small-town America and the poor, they're going to rely on the internal combustion engine for a long time. And we need big engines, powerful engines in big pickup trucks to haul our feed, to haul our cattle. Remember, I represent parts of 30 counties, almost on one-third of the state of Illinois, and we have working trucks. We don't have electric engines that can do that. Now, the closest thing would be a hybrid, where you use the electric part of the engine part-time, but when you have the heavy load, the internal combustion engine still kicks in to carry the big load.
Congressman John Shimkus joining us about his questioning yesterday of these folks about the BP spill. Congressman, thanks for your time. Sorry for the confusion. I could have sworn you were on the committee today, but by God, you should be. It looks like they're having a lot of fun in there with Tony Hayward. But
well, I'm on a telecommunications E911 hearing, so I got to do my other jobs too.
Amen to that. Congressman John Shimkus, good enough to join us. Congressman, pleasure as always. Have a great weekend, sir.
Okay, bye.